Hey guys, this is test 56, game 1. This is the Saxophonists Auditions game. It's an ordering game. We know this because the auditions go from 1 p.m. through 6 p.m. on the hour, and because time has an inherent order to it, this is an ordering game. Now I've laid out a bunch of rules here. I'm going to explain all of those. We've got J before H, we've got G before K, and then they tell us that G and L have to touch. So I set up L, G, G, L consecutively. We don't know which order though. The whole box is occurring before K. Then finally they tell us that L and J are separated by exactly one audition, but they do not tell us the order, so I've laid out J/L space L/J. And this right here is a very bare bones initial setup for the game. However, because we have L here and L in the G box, we can actually make multiple main diagrams based upon how this plays out. So we could set up one diagram where we have LG and then J coming after it, or LG, J coming before it. Same goes for G with L before it or L after it. So that creates 4 main diagrams due to the fact that the GL box can go 2 different ways and the JL box can also go 2 different ways. So I set up 4 different main diagrams here based upon the layout of JL and GL. So here's J space L with G coming after it, J space L with G coming before it, L space J with G coming before L, and L space J with G coming after L. So 4 different main diagrams. You can see that I'm actually going to set up this game in a loose ordering style rather than making too much use of this 1 through 6 spaces right here, just because these things are loosely ordered, and while this is a box with exactly one thing in between it, placing G there makes it pretty clean, and then when G is not there, we just got to remember exactly one thing goes within that box as well, which is why I created a space there for exactly one thing. Now we can start combining the other rules in. On the second, third, and fourth diagram, we can very easily add H coming afterwards. So since J is before H, and H can't go within this box, H has to come after it. In the second diagram, again, J is before H, so H is coming after it. And in the bottom diagram, we have H coming after it as well. Now we also know that K is coming after the LG box, so I'm going to have to relate that in as well. Here, K is coming just after the entire box. Here we have K coming after as well. Here we have K coming perhaps within and perhaps after. And then in the bottom diagram, we have K coming after as well. So in the top diagram, we have H and F remaining, and we don't know exactly how they're playing out. Either could go within this box or it could come afterwards. In the second diagram, we simply have F remaining, could go anywhere. In the third diagram, we could have K going within the box or going after, as well as F going anywhere at all. In the bottom diagram, we simply have F going anywhere at all. So some ambiguity remains, but everything will fall within one of these 4 scenarios. Now, question number 1 is a typical orientation question. We're just going to take one rule at a time and apply that rule to all 5 choices, looking for violations. So we know that J has to come before H no matter what. Scanning through the choices here, we see that choice D has H before J, unacceptable, so D is eliminated. Next, we know that we have to have L and G touching. Scanning for violations of that, we see that choice A has G and L spaced very far apart, so A is gone for that reason. The other choices are all good on that issue though. We also know that we have to have L, G, G, L coming before K. So scanning through the choices there, let's look for K coming before that, which would be unacceptable, and choice B has K before G and L. B is unacceptable and can be eliminated as a result. Next, we know that we have to have exactly one space between L and J, so scanning for violations of that, we see 2 spaces between them in choice C, so C is gone, leaving E by elimination for number 1. Next, number 2, general must be true question. So we'll just use our knowledge here to eliminate wrong answers. L earlier than H, does that have to happen? In the second diagram it does, in the third and fourth it does, but in the top one we could have H coming in between J and L, making it before L in that case, so A is not a must and can be eliminated. Next, looking at B, L before K, of course initial inference, since L and G touch and G is before K, therefore L is before K as well, so B is a must and is now our answer to number 2. I will go through the rest though. J on either 1 or 5. No, in the bottom diagram here, we could have one of KF coming after J, which would make J on 4 instead, so for that reason we know that J does not have to be 1 or 5 and is gone. Next, looking at D, F and J not consecutive. Could they ever be consecutive? Yeah, F is, rather open-ended variable. We could have F touching J right here in the beginning on the second diagram, just as one particular example. So it is certainly possible for them to touch, and D is gone. Finally, looking at E, G and K not going consecutively. We could have that occur, for example, in the top diagram. We could have J, H or F, L, G, K. So because that could work, E is gone, leaving B. Next, number 3, what's the earliest that K could go? Well, remember that K has to go after both G and L. So we could put K within this space right here between L and J, then have F come somewhere afterwards. So K could be on 3, we have proof of that, but K could never be earlier than that due to the fact that it's always after both G and L. So for that reason, 3, choice C is our answer. Next, number 4, what would fully determine the order of the saxophonists, leaving no ambiguity at all? So we'll just run through the choices here. H on 4, would that fully determine it? Well, if H was on 4 in this diagram, we'd have to have K and F coming after it, but we wouldn't know the order of K and F. So for that reason, A does not fully determine everything, even within this particular scenario, so A can be eliminated. Next, looking at B, J on 1. Well, that certainly renders the bottom 2 diagrams invalid, but we still could have J on 1 in either of these scenarios, so it doesn't even resolve which of these two we're using, so for that reason, B is gone. Next, looking at C, J on 5. That could never happen in these two, so we're only looking at the bottom ones here. So 3 and 4 right here. If J was on 5 here, we would need both K and F coming before it. K would come within this. Because K has to come after G and L, F would come earlier, giving us the order F, G, L, K, J, H. That works perfectly fine. In the bottom diagram, though, J could not be on 5 due to the fact that it's got to have at least H and K coming after it, and there are only 6 variables. So J's latest in this diagram would be 4, rendering this diagram irrelevant. We're using the third one where things are fully determined, so as such, C does fully determine everything, and that's our answer to number 4. I will go through the other choices, though. Looking at D, L on 1, that could happen in none of the first 3 due to the fact that this one has G before it, but in this diagram, F could still come between J and H, or could come after J and H, or between J and K, or after J and K, so for that reason, D does not fully determine everything and can be eliminated. Looking at E, L on 2, that could not happen in either of these 2 diagrams due to the fact that L's after at least 2 things, so its earliest would be 3 in those diagrams. L could be on 2 in either of these. We could have F before it, which would still not resolve the HK ordering, or we could have K within this or F within this, so it doesn't resolve which of these 2 we're using. Therefore, it does not determine everything, so E is gone, leaving C. Next, number 5, if J was not on 1, what could be true? So, lots of ambiguity here. I mean, F could not be on 1 in any of these. So, we can, all of these diagrams are relevant to us here. We just want to ask ourselves what could be true while remembering that for this question, we do not have F on 1. So, could we have H on 6? Yeah, we could do F on 4, K on 5, H on 6 in the bottom scenario, for example. So for that reason, A could be true and is our answer to number 5. I will go through the others though. G on 5, could that be true? Well, G on 5 could not be true in any of these 3 diagrams, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, due to the fact that G has to have more than one other thing after it. So F not on 1, we're only looking at the top possibility here. G on 5 would mean K is after it and H and F are both before it. So because J is before H would be here, and F would have to be on 1 as a result. And so that's not going to work. Therefore, B is gone. Next, looking at C, H on 3. So H would not happen on 3 here due to the fact that it has at least 3 things before it. So that's irrelevant. It would not happen here due to the fact that there are at least 4 things before it, and would not happen here due to the fact that there are at least 3 things before it. So only the top diagram would be relevant for this one. And if H were on 3, we would have to have F on 2, then H on 3. But there's only space for one of those things here. So either H has to be on 2, or it has to be coming much later. So C is impossible as well. Next, looking at D, J on 2 would never happen in either of the bottom scenarios due to the fact that each of those has to have at least 2 things before J. Only these 2 are relevant. In the second one, in order for J to be 2, F would have to be 1. Same goes for the top diagram due to the fact that J is before H. H would be here, and F would be earlier, for example. So for that reason, D is gone. Then looking at E, J on 5 would never happen in these 2, of course, because J has too many things that have to come after it. In this diagram, we would have to have H afterwards, of course. K would have to go here or later. and F can't go on 1, so we're not going to be able to make a valid scenario here. If we put K in here, for example, then for J to be on 5, we would need F to go on 1, or if we were to have F in the middle here, we'd have to have K coming much later, in which case J would be on 4 rather than 5, so for that reason E is gone, leaving A. Finally, number 6, general must be true question. So we'll just run through our knowledge of the diagrams here. G before 5. Must that be the case? Or could we ever have G coming on 5 itself, or perhaps 6? Well, G is never going to be 6 due to the fact that K has to come after it, but could G be on 5 itself? Yeah, if we had F on 1 and then H on 3 in this top diagram, for example, yeah, G could be on 5, so it does not need to be before 5, and A is gone for that reason. Next, looking at B, H after 2, must that be the case? Or could H be on 2? It certainly couldn't be on 1 because J is before H, but could H be on 2? Yeah, if I reuse this top diagram again, I put H on 2 and put F coming after somewhere, meaning 5 or 6 interchangeable with K, that works perfectly fine. Therefore, H after 2 does not have to be the case. H could be on 2 itself and B is gone. Looking at C, H before 6, must that be the case, or could H be on 6? In this bottom diagram, for example, we could have LGJ123, K4, F5, H6, works perfectly fine. Therefore, H need not be before 6, and C is eliminated. K before 6, once again using this bottom diagram, for example, we could have a K on 6 if we had LGJ123, H4, F5, K6, for example. So D is gone, leaving E by elimination. And then if we look at E, L before 5. Must that be the case? Or could L be on 5 or 6? Well, L certainly could never be on 6 due to the fact that K is coming after it, but could L be on 5? Couldn't happen in either of the bottom two scenarios due to the fact that too many things have to come after it, but could L be on 5 itself? In this second diagram, we have to have at least 2 things after it, so that's not going to work either. And in this top diagram, we've got to have at least G and K after it, so no, in none of these scenarios can we ever have L on 5. That's why E is the answer for 6.